Financial Experts is here to answer your questions and help preserve your family's financial future. Now, here's Gary.
You're live.
Hello, friends. Welcome to the Word on Wealth. This is Gary Quackenbush. So good to have you along today. You know, sometimes on this show, I get super excited because I've got these show partners that will come on that are experts. They know their business. And I just happen to have a friend of mine on the show with us today, Ken Pecus. Ken is a realtor here in San Diego, sells and buys houses and commercial buildings and stuff all over the place. The guy's fantastic. He's incredible. He'll answer all of your questions related to the housing market, buying and selling homes. On the air with us today is Ken Pecus. Kenny, how you doing, man?
Hey, Gary, I'm doing great. Kind of fun.
Yeah. So thank you so much for doing this. This is super good. The show, we're like this Word on Wealth show is like all kinds of wealth. And you go like, wait a minute, it's Southern California. Wealth is in the dirt. There you go.
Is there any better wealth than real estate? Come on.
Oh my gosh. I know. It's like, it's crazy. So the one thing I want to do is let you listeners know that Ken is, he has helped me out very recently. That's why I'm so excited to have him on. The guy he is super awesome. He's got an incredible team, hardworking, super fun. But there was this report that came out by Goldman Sachs, and it's like almost heresy. So Ken and I are going to talk about that in just a second. But I want you to know, to get a hold of Ken, he is the founder of his realty group called Ken Pecus Group, or the Pecus Group, at eXp Realty. So he's easy to get a hold of. Is Ken at Ken Pecus, it's Pecus, kenpecus.com. And then his phone number, and I'll repeat it during the show, or if you forget it, call me, 619-977-8419. This guy even answers his phone on vacation. He's insane. All right. So Ken, tell us about the housing market. What's the deal with San Diego's housing market? Where are we going? What's your prediction, crystal ball? Help us out with all that.
Got it. So housing market, we're going to talk about this right now, this moment in time. Am I right? That's what we're looking at right now? Sounds good. All right. So actually, I think in the words of some famous people, I would say the housing market is very strong. Truth be told, it's always strong in February, March, and April of every year. I've been doing this I'm on my fourth decade of selling. So I've discovered patterns in San Diego's selling season. And so one of the biggest patterns that any realtor that's been selling, for a number of years will probably notice that the spring market is pretty significant. It always moves, whether the overall economic environment is good, bad, or otherwise. The spring environment is just always a great market to sell. And this year is no different. And that's great because, towards the end of the second half of 2022, when they started raising interest rates, everybody thought the sky was falling and the world was ending because sales were not going. But it was just combining with, seasonal stuff and the interest rates. Now everything is settled in and we're back to a normal spring. So I've got some numbers here for you if you want to hear me.
Oh, yeah.
For why. So I went and looked up some countywide numbers because I figured you might want to get a little more data, so you can make your own decision. So sure. Since January 1st, the county of San Diego has brought on 2,705 new listings. Now I'm only talking about houses and condos. I'm not really talking about commercial property or units. So just the houses and condos, 2,700 plus new listings. But since January 1st, we've had 1,857 properties go pending, and we've had another 884 properties go off market for a total of 2,741. So technically, for these first 6 weeks or 5 weeks of January and February, we've kind of gone even. We've gone off market as much as we brought on market. So there's been actually a small market inventory decrease. So that's something to know. And 2,700 listings is a very low number when you look at it historic numbers. Okay. So that's what's going on there. Then I did some just basic quick checks that I think some of your listeners might want, depending on what part of the county they're in. I got some stuff here just to let you know. So Coronado, where I grew up in and where one of my offices is located, that's near and dear to my heart. There's only 37 active properties for sale in Coronado right now, and 15 more that are already in escrow. So a total of 52 total. Crazy, that's a crazy low number when you consider how many properties are actually here in Coronado, with whether it's the Coronado Shores, Cays, or the Village. And prices go between a low of 900,000 for a small condo to right now the highest price property that's being offered for sale is 32 million. So there's the whole gamut here. Okay,
that's interesting. So
La Jolla, another big another high-end market. Mm-hmm. You've got 109 active on the market and 44 pending in escrow. So even that's a very, very small number when you look at the housing stock in the greater La Jolla area. There's like 7 different neighborhoods within La Jolla, and those numbers go from La Jolla has a bigger diversity because of going by UCSD and going by towards Highway 5. But they have lows of 480,000 for like little condos, to their highest one right now is listed at 49 million. So whatever you want in whatever price range, there's La Jolla. But what's really interesting about both La Jolla and Coronado, their average price for a house right now is $1,695,000. It's even between La Jolla and Coronado. So that's kind of cool.
That is interesting.
Then another one of my favorite neighborhoods that a lot of people can relate to is the Metro, and I picked out North Park.
Okay.
Now here's North Park. There's 15 active properties for sale, 15, and there are 18 pending in escrow. So if North Park was itself was a city in
2 minutes
ago, North Park would be like one of the biggest cities, and not as big as Chula Vista or Escondido, Oceanside, but it'd still be one very large city. And to have only 15 active properties for sale right now can just show you that there's a lot of demand for housing.
Interesting.
A couple of other popular.
Ken, wait, so on this kind of thing, I wanted to, it seems like, listings are low, but I'm trying to figure out, and we have about probably another minute or so to until we have to take a quick break. But with the listings being so low, people are worried about, oh, my house is not going to be worth as much. Why are they so low? I don't understand. If people don't qualify for loans, that has nothing to do with the listings, because that just means they may not be able to buy. But why are we so low on listings right now? So it's about 30 seconds to just kind of give us a brief on about, why do you think listings are so low?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. First of all, people are all day long. So it hasn't been about people not qualifying. Maybe some of the very, very first-time buyers got out of their qualifying, but the majority of people are still qualifying. We have a whole variety of doing buy downs, things like that. Mm-hmm. Listings are low because people don't have places that they can go to. It's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. They can't sell because they don't have a place to buy. They're kind of.
Okay. Well, that makes total sense. So you guys, you can see, I'm telling you, Ken knows everything. So what we're going to do is when we come back is I'm going to ask Ken some questions. We got to talk about this Goldman Sachs prediction, which I just thought it was completely insane, but we're going to talk about that when we come back here on the Word on Wealth. I'm here with Kenny Pecus of Ken Pecus Realty, the Pecus Group, eXp Realty. His contact is ken@kenpecus.com. His phone number is 619-977-8419. So coming up next, we're going to talk about this Goldman Sachs. Like what? Coming up here on the Word on Wealth.
You've got questions. We've got answers. This is the Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush of GQ Law. Gary's here to give you peace of mind with expert estate planning, trust administration, inheritance, and probate. Call Gary to build, protect, and transfer your wealth. 855-500-TRUST. GQLaw.com.
You're saving and investing for the future, and that's good. Have you ever stopped to think, where does my money actually go? This is faith-based investing with Anthony Wright.
Most Christians just don't understand that the money they save for retirement usually helps fund the abortion industry and other liberal anti-family causes. But did you know that with just a few minutes of your time, we can screen and clean your investments at no cost to you? It's absolutely complimentary. Just go to the website right now, download a free copy of my book, Faith-Based Investing. It's free as well. You deserve to know the truth as the investor. Then the choice is yours. You can keep doing what you're doing, or you can line up your investments and life savings with your beliefs. We are fiduciary investment advisors. You can feel good about investing with confidence. So learn more now. Go to BibleSafeInvesting.com or call me at 931-RETIRED. Your free book is waiting for you. Go to BibleSafeInvesting.com and be sure that you listen to Faith-Based Investing this weekend right here on Family Call.
Gary, how do you and your team help our listeners avoid probate?
Well, first of all, probate is a process that involves attorneys, judges, and sometimes contesting parties. And so we try to avoid probate at pretty much all costs. The way we do that is setting up living trusts, setting up properly documented wills, putting the property like houses, cars, bank accounts in that trust so that it avoids probate. Probate is only necessary if the estate plan isn't set up quite right. So we help them get it set up right. And mainly that's done through a properly created living trust.
Call Gary and the team at GQ Law, 855-500-TRUST, or go online and download Gary's free ebooks and videos. Read Gary's blogs. Call or click to request your free initial consultation. That's gqlaw.com, 855-500-TRUST.
You're not alone. Ask for the legal help you need. Call Gary and the team at GQ Law, 855-500-TRUST, or go online and download Gary's free ebooks and videos. Read Gary's blogs. Call or click to request your free consultation or to talk with a member of the GQ team. That's gqlaw.com, 855-500-TRUST.
You're live.
Hey, welcome to Word on Wealth. We're so glad to have you along, friends. We have our real estate exit. Oh my goodness, I'm starting over. Hey, everybody, welcome to the Word on Wealth. We have our expert Ken Pecus on the show with us today. He's telling us all about the housing market, which is super exciting to me. I've been in San Diego for my entire life, in and out sometimes, but this guy is a normal person. Besides the fact that he's like super type A and super hard worker, but he travels internationally. I've actually called him while he was in Argentina once because he insists on taking his calls when he's on vacation. But this is what the guy does. He's really good. We love Ken. He and his team are just fantastic. So Ken, again, we really appreciate having you on the show. We got to talk about this Goldman Sachs thing though, because I saw it too. And I just went, are you kidding me? You got to be kidding me. So let's talk about that.
All right. So for people that don't know, Goldman Sachs a couple of weeks ago issued a client note. They call it a client note that outlined their prediction for 2023, where majority of the markets in the U.S., New York, Chicago, Miami, all had good prognosis. But then they singled out 4 cities in the West and Pacific that they said are ready for 2008 style crashes of like a 26% housing crash. And San Diego, Austin, San Francisco, and Phoenix were the 4 cities that were called out. San Jose, not San Francisco, I should say. So due to the buildup. So, just so you know, give some context. 2007 to 2012, Gary, the entire housing retraction in the Great Recession was 26%. So they're talking about 1 year, what happened over 5 years in the Great Recession. So just on its surface, sounds absolutely absurd, with that kind of happening.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. And, this report has been in all of the news and in the newspapers, and people are talking. And of course, our clients are all saying, wow, we're going to pull back 26%. And I'm not an economist, but I've been through a lot of housing ups and downs and stability. You just got to look at this from a supply demand issue. You also have to look at this from a pragmatic issue and look at the data, look for the numbers. The consumer is intelligent, give the consumer the numbers and let them make up their own mind. But I don't see how this is going to happen, at least of all within 1 year, 2023. Mm-hmm. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it doesn't. It does. I mean, from a guy that's just, I've just been around in San Diego for a long time. I just remember, prices every time you go to sell a house or buy a house, you sell a house, you got to buy a house, to replace it. So it's like wherever the market is, it's doing its thing. But, I look at all these alarms and it's going to go up and down and we have a bubble and it's going to pop and all that. And I remember in a tax group that I belong to, California Society of Tax Consultants, we would have the county assessor, literally the county assessor of San Diego, come every year and talk about, what's the highest tax on any house in San Diego? Because he would appraise houses, whatever. So we had him talk about like this very thing. And he said, housing bubble, housing crash. He says, let me think about it. He goes, in January, there are people in New York that are watching the Torrey Pines Classic on Torrey Pines, and people are standing out on the golf courses golfing. And it's January in New York, and they're freezing their buns off because it's below zero. He said, there's no bubble in the San Diego housing market. There never will be. It was so funny. It's like, it's supply and demand and desirable properties. I don't know.
Well, look at the numbers here, right? I don't think it takes rocket science. We all understand supply, demand. Mm-hmm. You got a lot of supply and low demand, prices go down because you have more supply. It works the same with airline tickets. It works the same with concert tickets, whatever. You have high demand, low supply, kind of the way it is right now, which is why we're back into multiple offers on so much of our deals. You don't have a pricing issue. So I think if you look at the overall media, you have to decide, what are they trying to get? I think they're trying to get stories. And so let's break it down just really fast. Break it down. What have we been hearing? We've been hearing about Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Meta, all with these big employee layoffs, correct? Mm-hmm. So Microsoft, they said they're laying off 10,000. Google, they said they're laying off 12. Amazon, they're laying off 18,000, and Meta, they were laying off 11. And they're like, oh my God, the job market is collapsing. Well, you had to have heard, everybody had to have heard, we are now at the labor report just reported we're at 50-year low on unemployment. But take those four companies and let's put in perspective. The actual numbers are, and I looked these up, during the pandemic, and that would be from Q4 in 2019 to Q3 in 2022, the pandemic years, Microsoft added 77,000 workers. Google added 67,000 workers. Amazon added 746,000. Now, this is all within a year and a half, 2 years. Meta added 42,000. They're literally just shaving off some of their oversupply because they thought everybody was going to stay remote all their lives. They're literally just shaving off. They're not, if you compare the current labor rates to what was before 2019, all of their employment numbers are way higher. So first of all, you pick that in context, right? You were here in 2007, 8, 9, 10, and 11, right, Gary? And yes. Were you here in like 92 to 95?
Oh, yeah.
All right. So what happened there? People stopped making mortgage payments. Why did people stop making mortgage payments? Well, in 1992 to 1995, San Diego had a massive employment base leave when they went through the base realignment, the BRAC hearings. So we had bases closing, we had General Dynamics leave, we had a lot of contractors leave. And then we had Desert Storm, where half of Oceanside was emptied out of all the Marines. So it took us like 4 or 5 years to reestablish our employment base in San Diego, the way of biotech and other things. And in 2008 and 9 and 10, they had the most ridiculous, what they call option arm mortgages, that as the options were resetting, people had qualified on the lower interest, the negative amortization, they suddenly had to make payments that they couldn't afford. So all of that was cleaned up also over the last 10 years. And we've not had anybody go into any kind of loans. It's been next to impossible for some people to get loans unless they fully qualify based on their employment. So the only way people are going to stop making their payments on their houses is if they lose their jobs or they lose their ability to pay. But in order for that to happen, they would have to stop, and then they would have to start flooding the market with inventory. And as I pointed out to start out with, the market is so under inventory right now that it would take quite a while for that market to flood so that the supply demand issue goes out of whack again, which would then cause prices to drop. San Diego, in fact, last week or 2 weeks ago, just released their lowest unemployment rate, I believe, in 25 years. It's 2.87%, San Diego's. So when you look at Goldman Sachs and you're like, and they're seeing a 26% fall or 25% fall in 2023, they're out of their minds. By the way, just so you know, very quietly on Monday of this week, Goldman Sachs reissued another report, and without addressing the first report, now says Austin is going to go down 16%, the Bay Area 14%, San Diego 13%. So they've now, without making any fanfare that their first report was full of crap, is now saying 13%.
That's so.
Which is still,
oh my gosh.
Which is still really.
Yeah, it's still. I mean, it's not. Whatever. It's just so. To me, it's crazy. And what the thing that happens, and people know this too. And I mean, our listeners are smart people. We've got the incredible demographic on both of these stations. You're listening to this show, The Word on Wealth, and it's like we all know, even when the housing market goes up and down, that the stock market responds in a different way, the bond market, there's all these different things that happen. There's all these factors. We talk to our financial expert, that in fact, Anthony Wright will be on the show tomorrow. You talk to him about, housing prices going up and down. And it's like San Diego is this unique market, this whole Southern California thing. And when they're talking about, numbers moving around and mortgage rates moving around, the market just adjusts for it. I mean, some people love the fact that mortgage rates are going up because now their retirement accounts are getting bigger. It's fantastic, and then getting into houses now, and you have those rate buy downs and these crazy deals that are just so amazing. I just want, what I want to hear from you, and you guys, this is all impromptu. So I want Kenny to tell us, somebody's looking in San Diego, they want to buy a house. Should they just say, I'm not doing it now, there's going to be this big crash? Should they wait? Should they move on it? If somebody really wants to move to San Diego and they've got some money put away, what do they do? Should they go for it? Should they get pre-qualified? Should they call you and start shopping? Or should they, go camp out in, I don't know, Omaha or something?
If you're ready to buy a property, there is no better time to buy a property than this moment. If you're trying to time the market, if you're trying to say, hey, I'm going to buy a property and I want to make 20% return on it next year because, the last 5 years or 4 years, things happen, don't do that. That's just rolling the dice. But if you want to buy a property and you've got a sense of a long-term hold, that you're going to have it. I've looked at different time periods between 5 and 10 years. And even if you bought it in like 2000,
2 minutes.
And it still had another year or two to go down, you still were okay in pricing within that 5-year cycle. So there is never a better time to buy property, whether it's investment for, if that's what you're going to do at some point, than right now. If you're going to try to time the market, just like stock, just like anything, that's a very bad idea. And for that, I tell you, don't do it. This is not one of those markets that you can time it and you're guaranteed you're going to be getting next year or 6 months from now, whatever. If you're a flipper, that's a little bit different. There's flipping houses has always worked in any market, whether the market's going down or up. There's just a science to it. It's different.
Okay. Well, Ken, I absolutely appreciate you being on the show with us today. We're hoping to get you on next Wednesday if we can do that too. You and I will talk about that. But Kenny's going to be here telling us about the housing update. We will be able to take calls in the future with Ken and be able to talk to him and have you ask your housing questions, because San Diego, it's all about the dirt, man. That's your stability. You get in the real estate market, things hang in there. That's just been my experience in 64 years. I don't know anybody else's, but that's kind of what I've seen over all these years. To get a hold of Ken and his team, his email is Ken Pecus, ken@kenpecus.com. It's P-E-C-U-S. So KENPECUS.com. Ken Pecus, and his number, and I know it's crazy, but he does answer his phone and he answers text messages and all that. It's 619-977-8419. If you're even thinking about it, like, I wonder if I should buy in San Diego. I wonder if I should move. Just call Ken, 619-977-8419. I got through Ken through a referral who is absolutely thrilled about it. Ken's helped him. He's helped me. He's helped my family. I'm recommending Ken. Give him a call, 619-977-8419. All right, guys, coming up next, I'm going to do a little brief summary of what we just talked about and then get into a little bit of housing and estate planning right here on the Word on Well. Thanks, Ken.
You don't need to know everything. You just need to know where to find answers you can trust when you need them. Welcome to the Word on Well with Gary Quackenbush. We are here to help you build.
Your hate Ken almost didn't make it out. You got lucky.
Okay.
Expert estate planning, trust administration, inheritance, and probate. Call Gary and the team at gqlaw.com. 855-500-TRUST. About this broadcast outreach, the Word on Well with Gary Quackenbush of GQ Law. Call or click to request your free initial consultation or to talk with a member of the team. Call Gary at 855-500-TRUST. gqlaw.com.
Right. So good to have you along. That was fun, wasn't it? I told you Ken is incredible. He knows everything you need to know about the housing market. When we have him back on, I'm going to open the lines up to have it so you can ask questions of him directly. If you do want to get a hold of Ken, the number is 619-977-8419. That's Ken Pecus, P-E-C-U-S, Ken Pecus. And the email is ken@kenpecus.com. You can look at his website. He's a nice guy. He's it's funny. I met him and I realized we have a lot in common as far as he's He's really into, being a good citizen, being a good person, contributing to the community. He's into family. He's into, good health, and I don't know. He's a lot of fun. So I've enjoyed working with Ken, and I'm just super happy, privileged, honored that he came on to the show today. So I really appreciate that. And hopefully you guys get a hold of him. And like, even our mortgage guys are saying, yeah, don't wait. If you're going to buy, get qualified and buy. Ken was saying specifically, if you go get pre-qualified and you go to it, you find your favorite lender. In fact, you can call Ken and he's got lenders he can refer you to. You can call me. I've got lenders I can refer you to. And you actually go through the process of getting pre-qualified. Like literally, they know exactly how much you can afford. And then you're shopping, knowing how much you can afford, knowing what markets to look in. And even though inventory is low, things keep coming on and off and on and off. And it's possible. I mean, it's like when you buy anything, I mean, I'm kind of a shopper. And if I buy, electronics, I start looking, I start shopping, I shop online, I shop in person, I go listen to things because I just kind of want to feel like I've made my best decision. I may not get the fanciest, I may not get the craziest, wildest, loudest, or whatever, but I end up figuring out where I'm finding out value for money and what my goals really are. That's really the way to shop for real estate too, is you're going to shop, you're going to look, and it's a lot of work, but it's worth it. It's going to be one of the biggest investments you've ever made. And in Southern California, I don't know what to tell you. It's been the best investment I've ever made. And I am super happy to participate in the market. So it's really cool. Now, the other thing I want to go into is how you deal with real estate with your living trust. Okay. And we've talked about this before, but it's always something that we still kind of struggle with. I mean, I'm in court. I don't know, more than I probably should be, but I don't know. It is what it is. We're dealing with a lot of trust administration cases where, somebody's passed away, like mom and dad have died, and now we're dealing with the real property. We're dealing with a rental or a child living in the home, and we're having to deal with real property a lot. To make sure that the real property can be handled without going to court, to probate court, when you do have your living trust set up, you need to make sure the house is in the trust and it's in their right. Okay. And I've always told you this as my listeners is, if you want me to check and see whether your house is properly titled, I'm happy to review your trust for you, and I will check and make sure. Now, I don't mean that if you just hired an attorney to do your trust and you spent the time and energy and effort and money to get it done, and it was done, 6 months ago, and now you want me to check it. That's not what I mean. I mean, if you chose somebody that you felt comfortable with, that you love, and you trust that they did a good job for you, then that's great. Okay. But as far as like reviewing your trust to make sure, do you have any questions on it? As far as like, do you think you need to make any changes? I get a lot of people that got a trust 3, 5, 10, 15 years ago. And now we're kind of looking at it and saying, is it still up to date? Is it what we need? Does it, comply with law changes? And one of the conversations I'm having is, what property do you own? When I'm doing a trust review, I'm not just going to read your trust and then get out my little check sheet and say, okay, of the, 36 things that you should have in your trust, here's what's missing and here's what's good. I'm not doing that. I'm looking at your trust to see if it meets your needs. I will go through your trust with you and I will tell you what your trust will do. And if you agree with me that that's what you want it to do, there you go. That's what you need. I don't oversimplify. I don't overdraft stuff. I don't make things, to where I sell it to you by the pound. I want people to understand, and that's where my clients are. My clients are educated and they want to know what the trust says. They're not good enough with, sorry, the trust is 300 pages long. You just have to trust me. I'm not that kind of an attorney. I want it so that you understand the document, that you're not exhausted by the time you're on page 18 and you haven't figured out, where's the distribution section. I want to make sure you understand the trust. I make it so that it is not overkill. I hate overkill on legal documents. It's just unnecessary. Yeah, you add in and compensate for, the future as best you can, but overkill just seems like, why do you, if you want to have a quarter of a yard of gravel delivered to your home so you can put in, some gravel along the side yard or, in some project. You don't have an 18-wheeler drive up to your driveway and deliver a half a yard of rocks. I mean, that's obscene. That's sure, it did a great job. Fantastic. Amazing. It was a great show, but holy cow, you don't need an 18-wheeler pulling a trailer to shovel out a half a yard of concrete. Instead, you have, there's other ways to deliver it, or a half yard of gravel. You just don't. So overkill for me, compensation for future. Okay. But overkill, I think that's a waste of time, energy, money, and it's too difficult, too boring, too much to read. So you got to figure out if your house is in the trust. Okay. That's where I was going with this. You can check the deed. If you look at your property tax bill, that's the first place to look. And if your property tax bill references the trust somehow, it says trust or trustee, that's a really good start. That's a really good indicator that it's in there, okay? Because your property tax bill will be fairly recent, okay? If your property tax bill does not make any mention of trust or trustee or family something, that's a bad sign. That indicates that it's possible that your house is not in your trust. Then it's going to require that we pull the actual deed from the county assessor's recorder's office and see what the deed shows. And if the deed shows it is not in your trust, then we need to figure out how to put it in by deed, and we can work on, how that can be accomplished. Why, if you got a trust, would your house not be in the trust any longer? First of all, it could be that it was never put there or the deed was never recorded. But most of the time, it's not because your estate planner messed it up. It's because there was maybe there was a refinance, maybe there was a loan payoff, maybe there was some other issue, and the title of that trust, the title to your house had to leave the trust, go out of the trust, have some financing for solar or for a refi or a home equity line or even like a home equity conversion mortgage, like a reverse mortgage, and then it has to go back in the trust. So that could happen. That happens a lot. A lot of people's trusts that I review, they realize, oh my gosh, so I refinanced 4 years ago. That must have been when it came out of the trust. So that we can fix. Okay. Make sure then to figure that out, because that's important, because the house is your biggest asset. And if that has to go through probate, that's a big deal. So the other things with housing that I want to watch and I want to talk about a little bit, it's a topic that some people, it's a little sensitive for a lot of people, is the I'm doing air quotes, okay, family home. Is there such a thing as the family home anymore? And if there is, what do we do about it? Can you pass on the family home? Is it worth it? Is it possible? I want to talk about some issues with that coming up next. All right. Now you know 2 things today. We've learned at least 3 things.
1 minute.
One is we learned who Ken Pecus is of the Pecus Group at eXp Realty. So you know him, you can call regarding real estate purchase and sell, and he's got a great team. The second thing we learned is that to figure out if you have your house in your trust or not, you got to look at your property tax bill to at least get started. And then you can look on the county recorder's office, and you can actually look up your deed to see whether it was in trust, and you could order the deed yourself. Or if I'm doing a trust review for you, I do the trust review for free. You just got to call my office number, 855-500-TRUST. I'll look at the trust. And then while we're doing that, we're going to make sure things are funded. Okay. So the next thing I think is really important to understand then is, what about some other things that should be in your trust? And I want to talk about that so that we're clear, because we're trying to avoid probate. We're trying to make sure that things are taken care of. And as much as we talk about and discuss it, until it's interesting to you, until it's something that really affects you, it's hard to remember. So we're going to talk about that again, coming up next on The Word on Wealth.
You've got questions. We've got answers. This is The Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush of GQ Law. Gary's here to give you peace of mind with expert estate planning, trust administration, inheritance, and probate. Call Gary to build, protect, and transfer your wealth. 500 Trust. GQlaw.com.
We've talked a long time about estate administration. So what is that? And why is it important?
Estate administration is the distribution part of estate planning. So when someone passes away and they leave money to beneficiaries, the property has to be administered. So it's like taking it from the decedent to the survivor. That's called the estate administration process. So usually you're going to have a successor trustee that's named in the trust. So have no idea what they're doing because they've never done it before. So then they call on GQ Law and we walk them step by step on how to be a successful and good successor trustee. We also do the required notifications. We notify the Department of Health Services and all the legal requirements so that they can have the estate administration done properly. We help successor trustees be successful.
Call or click to request your free consultation. GQlaw.com, 855-500-TRUST, GQlaw.com.
If you
You're not alone. Ask for the legal help you need. Call Gary and the team at GQ Law, 855-500-TRUST, or go online and download Gary's free ebooks and videos. Read Gary's blogs. Call or click to request your free consultation or to talk with a member of the GQ team. That's GQlaw.com, 855-500.
You're live.
Hi, friends. Welcome to the Word on Wealth. If you want to ask me a question, I've got lines open, 888-344-1170. That's 888-344-1170. I want to tell you about the lineup that we've got coming up. Tomorrow, we have Anthony Wright. So that's every Thursday. We've got Anthony Wright. He's our financial wealth professional. And we're going to have lines open tomorrow as well to ask Anthony questions. I would love to hear you call in and ask specifically what your questions are. With the market moving around, Anthony's going to help us figure out kind of how to navigate the market and how to you move your investments, keep your investments where they are, how to find a good advisor, that type of thing. That's going to be on Thursdays. On Friday, we have a very special guest, Chad Stewart. Chad Stewart is an author. He's he's been on the radio, TV, all that. He's actually just one of these guys that's like lining up to set up to do a movie. So we have the privilege of having him on. Noah Dingley, my producer and show co-host half the time. He set that up for us. So that's going to be on at the end of the week. So it's going to be cool. Chad Stewart, Anthony Wright, and we had Ken Pecus today. All right, finishing a couple different things, some housekeeping, every pun intended. Housekeeping, making sure that your house is safely tucked into your living trust. And that is, we look at your trust, we make sure that it's in the trust, because if it's not, that's something to do immediately. What about investment accounts? I'm hearing a lot of investment advisor advice that will say, make sure your investment account is in that trust if you have a family trust. And the way they do it is they set up the transfer on death, which says, on my death, this account transfers to my living trust. And they are considering that funding the trust. Well, that's after death funding. After you pass away, yes, if the trust is the beneficiary, then the money could go into the trust and now be paid out through the terms of the trust under the control of the successor trustee. But that's not funding. That's after death funding. And I don't want that. I want the investment accounts in there now. It's more work, but it's important. You got to talk to your advisor and ask them, what is it going to take to put this account, to retitle this account so that it is in the name of my living trust. They cannot do it for retirement accounts, IRA, Roth IRA, 401k, 403b, 529 plans, HSA, those type of things. They are not, you can't title those in the name of the trust because they are held by a separate entity, right? They're held by the custodian of that account, but you're going to be able to put everything else in there. Your mutual fund account with any of your investment advisors, you could put that in the trust and it gets retitled. The way I know it happens is I literally personally will get out my investment account statement and it says on there, Quackenbush Family Trust, Gary Quackenbush, trustee. I know it's in there. Okay. And the way some accounts will let you do it, you have to experiment. Okay. I could go on for a long time and talk about each individual organization, but then they change the rules. So what you do is, for example, if you have an account, for example, at, let's say Schwab, they're a big one. And I'm not saying, hey, they're the best or whatever, but you can go online and you can open an account in the name of your living trust. And if you can't go online and do it, then you contact an advisor and you can do that online or whatever. But every institution, especially now or in 2023, has a way to do it. And it's some work, but it's when you do it, I don't know, there's something satisfying about opening a bank account or an investment account and having it done right and it's sitting in your trust. But you got to do it, because what I'm seeing is, sometimes we just tuck money away and we, like I have one account, for example, I just thought this was like a long time ago. It's my, and Anthony probably would go, are you kidding me, Gary? That's the dumbest thing ever. But I decided a long time ago that I would transfer $57 a week. Yeah, $57 every other week to an investment account and into the cash portion so I could push it around and, invest it and stuff like that. 57. And you're thinking, well, why 57? Because if I did any other number, I would see it in my bank account and go, what the heck is that for? But when it's 57, it had something to do with, I don't know when I did it, but it wasn't in 1957, but it's $57. And it made it so that that's been in there and it's been going for years and years and years. So it builds up the account. It's slow, but it's 150, it says $115, $20 a month, and it goes on for a long, long, long time, and it grows and grows and grows. So that was my way of doing it. But then when I went in and decided that's fine, leave it that way. But I also went in and I set up an account in the name of the trust, and now I can move that money there. So I can have my $57 go to my trust account. Each individual trust advisor, trust company, they're all going to have different ways of doing it. It's Neuberger Berman, Schwab, Merrill Lynch, Goldman Sachs. They all have different ways of doing it. All the organizations, they tend to have different opinions on the way it should be done and legal requirements and all that. But still, if you have your investment house or your bank and it's set up like they think it should be done, then you can trust that that's okay, even though it might be different. Okay. If you're going to do a bank account, you can't usually go on time. It depends on the bank. But if it's a big bank, Wells Fargo, Chase, the big ones, you cannot go online. I have not found success in going online and trying to set up an account in the name of the trust. They make you go into the branch, which is fine, whatever. You go into a new accounts person and they set it up and it takes not that long. If you have an online only bank, the online only banks, like if that's all they do is online, then it's not as hard because you can set it up online. It's just important to do. And why? This is what I wanted to tell you. Think about this. Your trust is set up and you put your property in the trust. Now you are the trustee of your own trust. You're the trustee. So I set up the trust and it's a Gary and Cheryl Quackenbush Family Trust. And I am the trustee and so is Cheryl. I'm the trustee of my own trust. I'm also the beneficiary. I get the money whenever I want. But as the trustee, I am trustee over the money that's in the trust only. Okay, I'm not the trustee of the bank account that's in my personal name. I'm only the trustee of the bank account that is in the name of my trust. Okay, so that's all fine and good because I am my own self and I can control my personal money. I am my own trustee and I can control my trust money. However, when I die or if I became incapacitated, then my successor trustee steps in. The successor steps in and their name is not Gary Quackenbush. Their name is whoever, Matt, trustee. So Matt, being the successor trustee, now has control over my assets in my trust. He does not have control over my assets that are outside in my personal name because even though I die, it's still in my personal name. And now we have to figure out how to get it out of my personal name and into the trust. And there lies the challenge. So our responsibility as the owners of the and holders and creators of our trust, our responsibility is to put the property in there as much as we possibly can. And I had somebody ask me this morning, should I put all my bank accounts in the trust? And I explained, I do not have all my bank accounts in the trust. I have most of them, and it's okay to have some outside the trust. Just don't leave a whole bunch of money in it, you know, $10,000, $15,000 or whatever, or 5,000 or 2 or whatever. But don't, if you have a lot of money, don't be leaving, you know, a couple $100,000 in bank accounts outside the trust. That's too much. That'll push it into probate. The amount of money outside your trust has to be much smaller. So I am a big advocate, big proponent of putting everything in the trust, but go ahead and keep like a checking. Like I'm not going to move my personal checking account into the trust because it has too many auto debits. It has auto debit to pay off credit cards, auto debit for, you know, bills and stuff like that. I don't want to open a new account in the name of my trust, move my money in there and go, oh no, I've got to move all of my auto debits, all of my auto payments. So I just have it outside the trust, and the money in the savings in my trust account, savings account goes into that, you know, that's how I move the money. I can make deposits there, but I control it all over the desktop that I have, the control panel that I have at my bank. So getting it done is really cool. Now, Andrea Kay asked me last night when I was on the air with her, because I mentioned the same thing. And she said, wait, stop. You just said cars. I thought you're not supposed to put cars in a trust. Well, a lot of times you're advised when you set up a trust, your trust advisor will say, you know, don't worry about it. Don't put your car in the trust. They're not supposed to be in the trust. And that's not actually true. Your car should be in your trust. It's just, it's more work than most people want to put in. But I think it's always a good idea to have your assets in trust, including your car. I mean, if you have a super fancy car, like we have a client that has a really fancy car that's worth way over the $180,000 probate limit. So yes, it's in the trust. We have a client that has collector's cars, and some of the cars are worth over $180,000. So yeah, we put those in the trust. And so it's possible. It's a little bit more work, but even put your own cars in the trust, because that way things are controlled in there, and it doesn't change anything other than once you pass away, everything's more organized. So as you can see, we're into organization. If you want more information on this, I would love you to get my free book called Living Trust Basics. It's on my website, gqlaw.com. And when you go there, there's a book, and there's a book cover, it's a white book cover, it says Living Trust Basics. You just click on that book cover. It's a little book cover thing. You click on it and you will be sent. You just have to put in your name, first name and email address, and it will send you the book. It's a PDF. It'll come to your email. It's it's 20-ish pages long, and, you know, on 8.5 by 11. It's just something I created a very long time ago. I've been updating it, and it gives you the information on Living Trust Basics, helps you kind of with the basics. And I know you understand them, so pass that along. Give it to your kids, give it to your grandkids, whoever doesn't have a trust that really should have one, so that we can get everybody trained up, get them in their trust. Thanks for being along today. Thanks for being on the show. Tomorrow we got Anthony Wright coming up here on the Word on Wealth. Goodbye, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.
Tell a friend about the Word on Wealth, featured since 1995 with financial solutions attorney Gary Quackenbush, an expert in estate planning, wills and trusts, and tax problem solving. Gary is past president of the California Society of Tax Consultants. Reach out to us. The Word on Wealth team of financial experts is here to answer your questions and help you preserve your family's financial future. The information you hear on the Word on Wealth is for general information purposes.
Thanks, Gary. See you tomorrow, bud.